The Graphic Histories Podcast.
I got bit by a radioactive bug. I tried an experimental drug. Went up for a stroll on a gamma testing range. I found an enchanted hurricane. I made a serum that made me small. I modified the serum so it would make me tall. Radioactive isotope in my eyes. Dying alien helped me accessorize. I gained the proportion and strength of a spider. Now I'm invincible and I can fly. I lost my sight, my other senses were heightened. I'm gonna put on my pajamas and go fight crime.
Hey there, it's that time, the time of times, the time you've been waiting for, the time has arrived. It is now time for the Graphic Histories Podcast. My name is Andre Mayette, your podcast host. Big thanks to Uka the Mock for our theme song, Superpowers. And big thanks to you, gentle listener, for tuning in once again to another action-packed, fun-filled, explosive, laugh-filled, and I really do mean laugh-filled, show. Today I talk with pretty cool guest, actually, Ernie Altbacker, also known as EJ. But I believe I referred to him as Ernie in the episode. Writer, rather, for a lot of animation. Most recently, worked on all of the DC animated films, a lot of those, Hush, the Green Lantern, Beware My Power, as well as the Justly Dark and various others of those, the Judas Contract, a lot of those comic book adaptations that were made into animated films. He worked on a ton of them and still does, and we had a great conversation. He also worked on the Spider-Man animated series from back in the day and continues to work with the showrunner of that, and we have a great chat about that and the future of that and all this good stuff. But man, oh man, I messaged Davin, who is kind of our guest acquisition dude, and told him after the show, I said, this was probably one of the funnest episodes I've ever had, because we laughed a lot. And, sometimes these interviews are fun. I chatted with someone the other day who's a friend who doesn't necessarily, I asked if he was listening, and he said he tunes in when it's someone that he wants to know about their story, which is fair. But, I kind of, and this isn't just me trying to shamelessly promote myself, but I said, often some of the funnest episodes are with people that you may not be super familiar with their work. You may be familiar with their work in a sense, but you may not know them specifically, like the animators, writers, those sort of people. And sometimes having these conversations with them, you learn a bunch about them, and you just have a blast. You kind of get to know them as people, and you laugh, and you tell stories. And at one point during this talk, Ernie asked if I want to edit this down, and I'm like, no, this is great. And he's like, wow, he talked about engineering for an engineering shop for 30 minutes, and I was like, it's gold. It gives real insight into these people, their lives, and how fun they are, and how real their stories are, and it's a blast. And Ernie was a great conversation. I had a super fun time. But just to pull back the curtain on how the show is made, sometimes I get busy with other work and then they pile up. So I have to record intros, outros for 3 of these mofos in a row. So I'm not going to chat about a lot of extra stuff. I'm just going to, let it go. This is actually a fairly long interview. It's longer than normal. So, why waste a lot of time with just me prattling on? So without much further ado, let's get into my chat with Ernie Altbacker.
Hello. How you doing?
Good, Ernie. How are you?
Good.
Excellent. Good to see you.
Nice to see you also.
Excellent. Where are you calling in from?
Los Angeles.
Sunny Los Angeles. Very nice.
Not today yet, anyway. Yeah, it's a little cloudy. We got a little marine layer. But...
Oh, yes. Yeah, I'm in Nova Scotia, so pretty far away.
Ah.
Yeah. Way up the coast. On the other side of the continent, too. But good to have you on, man. Really excited to chat with you.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Excellent. Cool. Guess we can just get to it. So where were you born?
I was born in Glen Cove, Long Island.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah.
What did your folks do?
Mother was a homemaker and dad was a machinist.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was there ever brothers and sisters? Do you have any?
I have one sister, sure.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Was there much of was dad like being a machinist, I guess, is a very particular type of work. Was he a very meticulous sort of person?
Yeah, yeah, he's pretty exacting. He's smart. I mean, like if you go into the Spider-Verse and you see all the alternates of
Hmm.
like, oh, this guy he's Spider-Man and so many different, but he's like three people
Yeah.
really. It's Miles, Peter, a couple others, right?
Yeah.
Um, I would be like a machinist in 75% of my alternate universes, I think. Like I was almost there, and then I got accepted to the American Film Institute for screenwriting. And since I already had a bachelor's degree, they offered a master's. And my mom was big into the education. Like,
Hmm.
well, if you can get your master's, you can go. And I ran away from the machine shop like as fast as I could. As
Well,
fast as I could.
were you like apprenticing or something to do that sort of thing? Is that like what you were thinking
I
about, or is it
worked in the
just
machine shop like many Saturdays from age 7 to 17.
wow?
Couldn't wait to go to college. Yeah, especially during the summer. Yeah, no, I was like, I was tapped to take it over, but I
Hmm.
really did not like machinists. Machining.
Machining.
Yeah. No,
I
being a tool and die maker is basically my dad was a tool and die maker.
oh wow.
He owned his own small place
Mhm.
and he did quite well for himself being an immigrant from Hungary.
Oh, really? From Hungary? Wow. So
Yeah.
that's the other side of it too, because that like I find like my dad's he was construction worker and like roofer, all that sort of stuff, but a lot of meticulous sort of hard work. So that's why I sometimes relate to people that come from a similar where they had a dad that was like someone meticulous building stuff, and a laborer essentially, because it's a whole other mindset. And I feel like putting immigrant on top of that would even heighten how much further he would probably be into working as hard as possible and try to expecting that of his kids.
Yeah. I so wanted you to say like fisherman or or or
Seems like
dead
it shouldn't. It shouldn't it? Yeah.
or deadliest crab catcher.
Yeah.
Because then we would just talk about that.
Yeah.
Obsessed with those things.
Well, I have lots of uncles that do that, and like great uncles and a few other people that's what they do. So,
I
uh,
remember in college, one of my friends, I don't know if he actually did it, but he was like, "We're thinking about going to work in the summer, um, on a tuna boat, or
mhm,
I think it was like a tendering boat instead,
mhm.
cod, something like that. I
Yep.
don't think it was like go for the crabs."
Yeah, yeah,
But it was like summer in Alaska. Are you insane?
yeah.
Like I knew it sounded like hard work, but now oh God, I so wish I would have done it at least like for one summer for the
Oh
experience.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, that would have been
I my grandmother's sister's husband is a lobster fisherman. So when I was a kid, like mom took me on a couple times on the boat, and it's like your day starts at like 4 a.m. Like the boat's out there at 6 going, and you're just hauling up traps, pulling out stuff, trying not to get pinched by lobsters, get them away. It's a hard lifestyle, but they do well, but they only work like 3 or 4 hour months a year because that's what the season is. But that like makes them fine for the
enough.
rest of the year. Yeah. And like I think a
Well,
lobster license is well over $1 million now to get one. So there's a lot of value in just having the license to be able to fish them.
oh man. But the one bad thing about being a lobsterman is if you would like I know when my friend worked at the fry shack,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
And at the end of that summer, he was like, "No more fried food. Like, we're not going in there. Can't stand the smell. Can't." Like, I wonder if like those crab guys and lobster people are like, "Lobster, no, thank you." Like
I
that would
wonder
be
that too. My
insane.
dad still like now that he's sort of older, he drives like he picks up um lobster and moves them between different wharfs down in the community where I'm from, which is on the water. So, there's different wharfs and different bait shops and stuff that he moves bait between. And so he's always in the truck going to pick up stuff, drop stuff off and do all that, but he still likes it. And like, he's a lobster guy. I've never been a huge. I feel like I'm a discredit to my species, being a Canadian, East Coast Canadian, um, by not caring that much about lobster. Like I don't mind it. I just don't. Everybody out here loves it. And it's like, yeah, it's okay.
What about
Yeah,
fish?
yeah, I like
Surely you
fish.
like
Yeah,
sardines or herrings and stuff like that. I'm way
yeah.
into that. I
Oh
think
yeah.
I think I should have been that would have been a good like career. Now that I know what I know,
Yeah.
I'd be like, well, if I can't be in this, if I can't do writing, I'd do writing as a hobby,
hmm
and I'd be like a commercial fisherman. I
Way
mean,
way on the other side of it. Like you're on the. It's like I wonder that. I feel like everybody romanticizes the opposite of whatever their profession is. You could be that fisherman, and you'd be like, I wish I were in an office writing. Like I feel like it would kind of be.
obviously, no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
And I said if I couldn't do
Oh yeah,
this,
I see. Yeah,
right? This
yeah.
is
Key.
this is actually my dream job. If I wouldn't be like, I'm never going to retire. I'm just going
hmm
to die at the keyboard one
hmm
day. It's like he didn't finish that one because you retire to do like your hobbies or your other favorite things. Writing is my favorite thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So I would just be doing the same thing for no money. So why not try to get shows on the air, even if nobody wants to listen to me?
Yeah, I mean, you've had a full career and then you want to keep going. Why not? I mean, that's what you dig, and that's the dream, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Um,
just saying that I think that would be a possible that I didn't know in college would be a possible,
mhm.
would be like commercial fisherman. I'd probably do let's go to Hawaii and catch the game fish
Yeah,
instead.
yeah, that would be
That's
fun.
probably a little
Especially,
fun.
yeah, especially in a slightly warmer. Like our climate's actually pretty warm. I mean, New Jersey's climate would be about the same as ours, but it's you know, during the summer months. But in Hawaii, it's like it's always nice. So,
You're to the Bering Sea or something. It's
yeah.
like if you could make the same amount of money, and I don't know, I have no
Mhm.
idea, I would rather be in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I'm going out on a limb here. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I guess you kind of got to go where the work is, I suppose. But nowadays, it's you kind of like when you're doing the writing thing, you can do it from anywhere. But I guess it's a lot of it is about the connections and the people connect, the industry stuff that you got to go to.
Exactly.
So, were you like a comic fan growing up? Like you're reading comic books or
Huge.
huge? What did you discover? What did you start with?
Oh God. It's embarrassing. I think I discovered war comics and
Oh.
Richie Rich. Were like my I
If
remember
only we could have combined the two and sent Richie to war.
Weird War Tales and like Richie Rich and those, Huey Dewey ones,
hmm
stuff like that. Yeah, the Scrooge McDuck type things. But then I think someone tossed me an issue of the Hulk, and I was like, well, whoa, 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 there's different stuff here, like what
hmm
there's more than I thought,
Yeah.
right? So then yeah, my first love, Marvel, the X-Men, Fantastic Four,
hmm
I really loved, and then it was more later that I like the DC stuff.
hmm
And I just love them. I love them all. But I was collecting comics by the time I would go to comic book shows and rent out a table at the small ones, at
hmm
the like Knights of Columbus or the Shriners or whatever. So I would have my table there. I would have my 500 or so comics and boxes, and just to trade up to get back issues of stuff I did not have.
Nice.
Right?
Wow,
So
that's pretty enterprising to do that, to even have the effort to go do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
I had a paper route, and I would spend most all of I'd make about $50 a week, and I'd spend three-quarters of it on comics. Uh, and the rest on candy and movies, I think. Um,
That's awesome.
so yeah.
Did you
Uh,
have like I always find this interesting because it seems like most people that I speak with on the show, and quite a few writers, I think some people that you may be contemporaries with as well. Um, and they talk about what growing up. It seems like you're either a DC or a Marvel kid. Did that was there a differential there, or is it just you're happy to read everything?
You know what? I did read everything, but like in the I think in the late 70s and early 80s that Marvel was where it's at, and
Mm,
the DC heroes were a little boring
mm.
at that time to me. And
Yeah,
then that all changes depending upon the writer
yeah.
and the artist that gets on them. Um, and obviously, DC, except for Batman, I think I've had a lifelong,
Mm.
love affair with the Dark Knight. He was always kind of cool,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
But some of the other ones, like Superman and the Flash, at that point, I just thought, this is like it's too easy. The storytelling,
And they're all kind of the same back then. It was almost like the Flash was just Superman, but he ran fast, and like Green Lantern was
yeah.
just Superman. Like their characters were generally the same. Batman was the only real outlier.
Yeah, I mean, like the Flash, it's basically to a regular person or a crook, he can punch as hard as Superman because he's coming at you with the speed of,
Yeah.
first sound and then light. I
Yeah.
mean, like if you get hit by anything by the speed of light, I'm pretty sure
You'd be
you're
dust.
gonna
Yeah.
feel it.
Yeah.
Um,
It would just you turn to dust. That's what you would be.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah, I would always think about that. I mean, this is more of a recent thing, like the cosmic treadmill.
Mm. Oh
And
yeah.
just like right after the Peloton commercial, the cosmic treadmill commercial would come on. And it's like, not only is it a great cardio workout, you can go back in time and change stuff that didn't work out. That
Yeah.
time you strapped your pants, in grade school. No, it didn't happen anymore. It's payments of $100 a month. It's like, I want that.
That's fantastic. It's like remember that girlfriend that you regret breaking up with? Now you don't have,
Yeah, it's like stood up at the prom, not anymore. Right?
Fix every mistake in your life with this one handy device. You know,
Yeah.
I always joke about that about the Flash. It's like talk about overpowered characters. Like he can run through time, like he can run through physical matter. He can do literally almost anything. And it's like, what's the point of anything? What's the point?
I mean, they all get overpowered over
Yeah,
time. I mean, Green Lantern. I can
mm,
make anything with my magic ring. I just have
yeah,
to, picture it. Zatanna. I have to say anything backwards, and
yeah.
it happens. Right? I mean, like, there's so many characters like that where you're like, all right, this is a little tough.
Yeah. As a writer, I would imagine like
To get
it,
this character in danger, what am I going to do?
to me it's always funny like we have another podcast and I think it might have been the person that reached out to you, Davin, who's my partner on that show, where we watched the X-Men 97. Well, we watched the original X-Men cartoon and then we were watching the 97 one now. But they were talking about how like Forge's abilities, he can think of something and then he can do it. And it's like, well, has he never thought about curing cancer or like solving world hunger or any of those real life practical things? It's always about just making robots to fight supervillains. Like, you think about that. Can't Satana just say goodbye cancer backwards and we're save countless lives? Like, you
I don't
know.
know. They've got a lot of stuff going on. They got a
That's
lot of
true.
stuff.
Yeah. And the pranksters robbing a bank. I don't have time to cure cancer. I gotta go do that.
Taste Pot Pete's running around. You got to
Yeah.
stop that. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't like.
I'll get to it eventually. It's one of my all-time favorite lines. I think it was in Spot when the Spider-Man was like teaching the X-Men. It was like Spider-Man the X-Men comics, where he's fighting like Sauron, and then Spider-Man's like, "You're a genius. Like you're wasting all this time turning people into dinosaurs. Why don't you cure cancer?" And then he's like, "I don't want to cure cancer. I want to turn people into dinosaurs. Like that's just what he wants to do. So that's what he's gonna do." It's just I love that. It might have been Stegron. It was someone like that, but it just made me laugh. Like,
This is good.
this is what I want to do.
At least he has, like
Yeah,
a reason.
he knows what he wants.
Yeah. The heart wants what the heart wants, and he wants people and dinosaurs.
He's passionate about dinosaurs. Well, when did you start writing? Like, what was the impetus of that?
Boy, I through comics, started to write my own short stories when I was about 10, and I had an English teacher And he had several books published, and I don't know what they were about. But I just thought it was so cool that in the library were books by my fifth grade English teacher, and I'm like, wow, So I tried to I wrote a like 100-page single-space story that I hunt and peck with a typewriter.
Wow.
And he actually read it. I gotta thank this guy so much. He actually read it and like gave me notes and said, "Hey, this is really good. You should keep on going with it." And then, of course, I never got a teacher like that again. We
Well,
tested grammar and stuff like that. It wasn't
yeah.
really, I didn't get to do creative writing in college. I tried to be an engineer. It wasn't a fit. So I had to move down to business. So I was way behind. I dropped a bunch of courses my freshman year. I had to catch up in business. I never got to take a creative writing course in college. It's like one of the bigger regrets
Hmm.
for me is, shoot, I should have been an English major. But my Hungarian machinist dad was not going to allow
I
that.
was gonna ask. I mean, and it's funny.
No, I had to
Yeah,
go in for engineering, and I had to be really bad at it for about a year and a half before I could drop to business.
really. Well, that's like the immigrant parent's dream. I would assume it's like be a doctor, be a machinist, be a businessman, be something that's guaranteed income, right? Or at least a high paying income that you can get.
Well, for
So
him, it was his dream. I saw him. He built gliders that he flew in. So he machined the parts for a glider,
that's
and then
mad.
somehow they towed it off the side of a mountain, and he flew it.
Oh my
So
God.
he was like, I would be an engineer at Boeing
Mm,
making test aircraft. That was his thing. It's like,
mm,
that's what I want for you.
mm,
You go do this. And I came up against physics and calculus and
mm.
said, no, I cannot.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I do not understand these scrawlings. You explain it to me. You can explain a problem, like a physics problem, and show me 5 examples. But if you change one thing the fifth time, I get it wrong.
Mm,
Like
mm.
unless it's exactly the same and you've changed the numbers. Like if you throw a curve in, I'm done.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
unfortunate. My brain just does not work that
Yeah.
way. I cannot do that.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, that's got to be, it's always a hard day for the parent when they realize that the kid, I had this discussion with another guy I had in the show,
I bet.
a comic artist, and I was saying how, because my dad was always like you should be outside. You don't know what it's like to work. You know what I mean? Like when I'm a kid, because I'm just a kid. When he was a kid, his dad died when he was like 15, and he just quit school in like the 60s and went to work and has done manual labor his whole life. So it's like, I feel like there's a slight level of like wanting your kid to do better, but also a slight resentment when you're like, well, your kid is getting to live a better life than I did, and I didn't get that, and that sucks. So
Like
somewhere in between.
every generation gets softer.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a caveman dad, right? When he was like, when I was young, saber-toothed tiger were trying to take away the thing that we were killing. Now there's all these herbivores here. You guys have it easy.
He's like, we didn't have a wheel to roll our shit around on. We had to carry
Yeah.
it.
We had to put this mammoth, we were dragging it.
Yeah, but instead of like, but that's a funny note about the human condition is you can't it's like I know this whole thing going on in the States where like Biden was forgiving people's like student loan debt, and people are like, oh, I had to work hard to pay off mine. Why should other people? And it's like it's just such a weird thing that you're just not happy other people don't have to struggle. You're just resentful that they don't have to struggle like you
But
did.
it's so normal.
Yeah, I know. It's so normal. It's so normal.
on.
Like you're like, someone's like, I had to go through chemo to cure my cancer. They created a cure for cancer. You should have to suffer and go through chemo like I did to be
It's
free of
like,
cancer.
I just took a pill and it
Yeah.
went off.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even lose my hair.
Yes.
But the other cancer survivors should get to punch the new one, Like
That's
Just,
fair. That's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
like you
Just
have to
line up.
feel some pain for
Yeah.
one cancer survivor to,
But it's such an ingrained part of the human condition that's just one of those like weirdly, deeply flawed human things that's just there that I find really funny. But like, it's there. Why is it there? I don't know. But so I'm sure there's some evolutionary reason Richard Dawkins can explain to me it is. But for now, I just weird, petty human shit, I guess. That's what we got.
So. Absolutely.
So when you went down to business, how did you progress to, were you just writing while you're going through the business classes or?
No, actually, so okay, it was the go-go 80s when
Mhm.
I got out of college, and so like a good little boy, I became a stockbroker,
Oh, perfect.
and I was in a company that wasn't I think they were doing some things that weren't great, and they got shut down,
Like the
and
Wolf
it
of
was
Wall
at
Street
that
company.
moment, yeah, it was
Yeah.
like the Wolf of Wall Street was actually higher class than the company I was in.
Yeah. It's like the one he
Um,
first started to work for,
yeah.
before he got up to the big levels.
Um, but I it was so my dad got ill for like I don't know a month or two, and it was like it seemed for a second like it could be bad,
Mm.
but it wasn't.
Hmm.
And then and he's like, just come in and like, take over for a little while, like do this part of it, and that mom's gonna run the books, whatever. She always did. Um, so I did, and then I looked around and I was there for like 2 years. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh no, oh
Hmm.
no, it's gonna happen. Like this is gonna be my life, getting
Hmm.
up at 5:30 in the morning in the shop at 6, like this is not good. So that's when I was like, well, I gotta have a hobby. What do I like doing? I love writing. Hey man, I haven't written for a while. Like I couldn't do it in college. Okay. Let me see. I thought about writing a great American novel for about one day and then
Hmm.
said, you know what? I like movies. I like movies instead of I love books, but that seems hard. Let me try and write a movie because that seems funner and easier.
I was
Wrong.
going to say I highly doubt that, but
But
whatever brings you to the party, I guess. But it's just
yeah,
that's funny. That's funny.
there was only two. Well, and I wanted to do it more. I really loved movies. That was like my weekend was always, to see a couple of movies and then go out with friends, right? So, yeah, it was at that time I was writing and I guess at my second one or third one, I wrote something and I came with the film school idea. Mom was supportive. Dad was kind of figuring out the boy is not he's not a brilliant machinist. Like, so
How old are you now? Like in your mid 20s, like early
yeah,
20s?
up to
Yeah,
like 23,
yeah.
maybe,
He's like, all right,
23,
23
24.
years later, it's finally settling in. He might not
Yeah,
be
it's
taking
like,
it.
you know what? He's not
Yeah.
great at
Yeah.
um he's probably gonna so I would sit in launch. Well, anyway, so I sent my example out to the AFI, and one
Hmm.
of the teachers liked it enough. That's the way they did it then. I don't know if that's the way they do it now, but they kind of pick their own students. There's only like 3 teachers and 31
Hmm.
people selected. So they each pick like 10 or something, and then maybe one person switches. The directors have less. There's an equal amount of them so they can do cycle projects,
Hmm.
right? Where, a cinematographer is there, director, a producer is there, and a set dresser, what do you call it? Not costume designer. Oh, I'm forgetting things.
Don't worry about it. It's not all right.
Yeah, yeah. So sorry. So I got in off of that and I lost the other thread that I was going for. Shit. So
Oh, cool. What was
um,
was it just like a sample script for a film you sent in?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You,
Cool.
you had to send in I think 20 pages, the first 20 pages of any feature or a short or something that you
Did you
would
have a complete feature that you sent, like that you took 20 pages from?
Yeah, I was
Oh,
doing that was like the third one that I was writing in those, like when I was in the machine shop after about 2 months, I was like, I gotta do something or else I'm gonna go crazy,
hmm. So you just be writing?
Yeah, and
What
so I would write at the end of it.
what was the script that you like? What was the story of the script you sent in?
It's kind of a retelling of the Wizard of Oz, but in a medieval world. And it was about a kid who was working in a machine shop. He
Of
falls off.
course.
Yeah, he falls off. He falls off a rack, and in his mind, he goes through a spelled vortex,
Mhm,
and goes into this medieval world where he is Prince Lee of Long Island, not Machine Shop Boy.
mhm.
And so goes through the entire adventure, like saves their world, and then it's really a wizard has brought him there, but he was knocked out in the real world, so his
Mhm,
consciousness goes back in, and he wakes up, and it's
mhm.
like one of those like you were there and you were there, and his
Yeah.
father slaps him in the face, slaps him in his face, and goes, "All right, are you better now? Are you better? You're talking crazy talk. Get back on the machine." Yeah, okay, I guess it was all a dream, and then
Yeah,
it turns out better. You can go back and forth. But
that's fun.
but so there was where my was at. It's like you're not a machinist, you're special.
Yeah, yeah,
Special
yeah,
in an
yeah.
alternate dimension. But not
I
this
love
one.
that. That's like the perfect escapism. You used your dreams of escaping the machinist life to escape the machinist life. That's lovely.
This is what I want to say with the machinist
Right.
life. It's at lunch, I'm always reminded like I got to do something else because there's all these old my parents are Hungarian, right? So there's all these old Hungarian and there's some Polish machinists and stuff, and each of them has lost a finger or two,
Oh
and they
yeah.
all talk with their hands, right? I mean, they're
Reminding you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta avoid this. And so I think Dad was like, he's gonna lose a finger or a hand. Let him try this. But yeah, we had a guy, and his nickname was 8.5. And then later, I found out that it was like a famous movie,
Oh yeah.
but it was like the machinists did not know anything why that was funny, like on two level. After I got back from the I discovered Fellini, and
I was gonna say it's a Fellini
you know
movie.
that
Like,
they
oh
were
yeah.
watching it, and I was like, I got chased with a socket wrench. It's like that's a stupid story. We're gonna kick your ass.
That's awesome. This is the Fellini reference. It's just because he's missing his
And I was like,
hand.
yeah, are you mad at me? So he's like, no, because I lost a finger and a half in various machines. There was two times that I was like you're being right now, and I lost, and I'm reminded of it every day. And I'm
That's
like,
awesome. That's
gotta go.
awesome.
Oh, and that's if you don't get something in the eye. There was
Yeah.
also a person with one eye,
Oh Jesus.
so like, and that was
It's like a war zone in here. It's just
we had,
eyes and fingers and
yeah, we had these goggles, and they were the plastic type of goggles. Dad grudgingly started giving them out after a person got dinged like right in the head by a piece of flaming metal. Uh, because he's like, no,
begrudgingly.
watch. You just gotta watch where you. And if something comes at you, you just go like this. I'm like, it's coming at you like 1,000 miles an hour. What are you talking
He's like,
about?
all right, you bunch of wussies. Here's some eye protection, I
Yeah,
guess. You
but
know?
they were the same ones that we had in high
Oh
school.
yeah.
The little plastic ones, they did not. I just think of the Simpsons episode, the goggles do
Do
nothing.
nothing.
I'm like, it would have went right through that freaking thing. Like a
Oh
slab of
man.
metal.
That's
Yeah, no,
fantastic.
it's a semi-dangerous place if you don't know what you're doing, 100%. Because
Yeah.
I was working on a CNC lathe, and it picks up a bar of metal that's 100 pounds. It's this thick. It's 10 feet long. You feed it into something, it starts spinning it at 2 or 3 thousand revolutions per
Hmm.
minute,
Hmm.
and then a drill bit comes down and goes right. So that's just like, obviously there's a big thing that you're looking through,
Yeah.
and it's bulletproof glass basically, but if the socket that's holding the thing gives out, and then there's a bar that's spinning, that's 50 or 60 pounds is left, and it's spinning at 2,000 revolutions per second, it'll just rip the cover right off that machine and come out, So bad things can happen.
Oh, yeah, you're done.
Pack of oil, there's some things you gotta watch. I mean, you'd have to be pretty dumb. It's like those people that you see on the freeway where their car is smoking because like a wheel has shredded off and they're not getting off the road. They're like, I'm getting home. It's usually a young driver. It's like,
Yeah.
I need to get home.
Yeah.
It's like the oil has run out of your car or you shredded a tire. It's like, no, you don't need to get home. Just pull over. Just stop. Pull out the plug of the machine. Don't, if there's loud noises, smoke, just pull over and stop.
That happened to me one time. I was driving. There's a woman. I came up a hill, and there's a woman on the middle. Her car was in the middle of the road, facing the wrong way, and there was smoke everywhere, like your brakes. So I pulled over and I ran over to her car, and she was like in the car, like freaking out. And I was like, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, someone cut me off, and I spun out." And I can't get my car started. She was like crying. I said, "Okay, can I get in and take a look?" And she said, "Sure." So she got out to the side of the road. And it's like a highway. This is the Transcanada Highway. Like cars are zipping by. So I went in and her car wasn't in park. That's why she couldn't start it. Like she was just so stressed, like from what happened, she couldn't even think enough to put the car in park and then start it again and then drive it out.
Hey,
So
I get it,
yeah, but you're right. People just don't. It's. I love the idea. It's like I just got to get home. I don't care what's happening. It's like that Simpsons episode where he's leaving New York and he's like, you got the boot on the car and the windows smashed and he's still driving.
Everything you can always use a Simpsons.
Oh,
reference.
That's my life. I could do it for everything.
Lesson you would like to teach. This is going to be seriously. I'm talking way too much about machining. This is going to be the most boring interview. This is rated 1.7. It's not going to be good.
Oh no, I think it's solid. This is great. I mean, I'm having a blast. I feel like the listeners will too.
All right.
Well, I guess we should give them something, I suppose. So when we get to what was the first gig out of school?
Are you going to edit? Are you going to edit some of this?
No, this is all going in, man. No, this is great.
Lord,
this is gold.
You gotta edit, man. We talked about fishing boats for a long time.
That's the beauty of this show. It's like this is the beauty of it to me, anyway. I love this stuff, and it's a good to know like the people like yourself and their real lives and their interests, and I feel like that's better than just saying what was this project, what was that project. It's like this tells us who you are.
All right.
A fishing boat enthusiast with a dark history involving machining. I mean, that's what
machine
yeah.
shop.
Yes, where?
Yeah. So first paying gig. I always give credit where credit is due. John Semper hired me on Spider-Man, the animated series of the 90s.
Oh, I'm familiar. Big fan. Big fan.
It was the number one cartoon, even though it was against Batman and X-Men. Both.
Well, I mean, they're both X-Men and Spider-Man. They were in the same. It was all the same studio, so it was. I don't think they put them against each other, but they were.
Well, Batman wasn't.
Oh yeah, no. But that was like a golden age for. That was like to me as a kid, those were the first cartoons that were like Spider-Man. Well, I mean, I have a Spider-Man tattoo. I've been a huge Spider-Man fan my whole life.
Okay.
But Spider-Man, X-Men, even Gargoyles to a lesser extent, but like the Batman cartoon, like that's when they started making things for kids that adults could probably appreciate. And I feel like that's this whole resurgence with X-Men 97 now that they're really like leaning into that because all those kids are adults and bringing all that hard stuff.
Yeah.
But that's cool. What was he like to work with? Because I was reading a bit about him recently because of all the stuff going on with X-Men 97. There's a lot of interest in people saying we need a Spider-Man 98 now, which I would love to see, and I hope they do. But like Semper seemed like a guy that was really like dedicated to actually making a good show despite the studio doing everything they could to not let him make a good show. Like considering what he put in it. And like, I was reading that they gave him all these things saying he couldn't Like they didn't want storylines to last the whole season. They didn't want all that stuff. They just wanted one-off episodes and not to build anything too elaborate. But then he sort of eschewed that and did what he did, which was a really great series.
I mean, yeah, people are. I just saw that Babylon, was it? No, there was like a documentary on Deep Space Nine.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the
And
movie? I love that movie.
no, not the movie, but just a series,
Yeah, no,
right?
they did a documentary. It was like a
Oh,
movie about the series called like What
right,
We Leave
right. Yeah,
Behind. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I watched
Where they
that. Yeah.
were like, we don't want it to be cliffhanger episodes. We don't want it to be season by season. And they were ahead of their time.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's a bingeable show
Mm-hmm.
that really you have to watch the entire epic if you're going to have full enjoyment of it.
Absolutely.
And John Semper was ahead of his time on Spider-Man. I mean, like he was the person who first created slash dabbled in the Spider-Verse.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah,
Oh,
100%.
like he did that stuff. So many firsts as far as putting an animated character on there with like Venom and
Mm-hmm.
Carnage and all of these great heroes and villains, and then doing some longer, doing seasonal arcs, and then doing. I mean, the one that I probably worked the most on, I was just on it one season of the last one. I believe that's season 5, but we were kind of his hands on the secret of Secret Six
Mm-hmm.
or something, and that's basically like if you put it together, it is a feature length movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's like 5 22-minute episodes. It's like 110 minutes,
Yep.
and it just all goes together, but it was fantastic. I mean, I was on staff, first job, staff job, and we just had to go in twice a week, and he'd buy us lunch, and we'd be talking about stuff that was so fun and nerd stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What would Doc Ock and the Rhino talk about if they were? I mean, he's a learned man. Like these were things
Yeah.
we spent the lunch on, right?
Wow.
That
That's
was one
awesome.
talk I remember, and it was hilarious. You
That's
know,
awesome. That's awesome.
and then we would get to work and we'd like break an episode or something, or we'd get to do notes on somebody else's episode. As a staff writer, you're kind of there to help the supervising producer writer, the
Mm-hmm.
the showrunner, and he'll give you the instructions, and you're like their hands to do these notes and stuff because they're juggling a dozen scripts at once that are in various forms of pitch, outline, and then the various drafts, up to shooting drafts, and he's going in for records and stuff. So basically he'll go, here are the studio notes on this, you know this well enough that do the ones that don't screw up the thing that we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Kind of fake the ones that might screw it up, but
Yeah.
everything should be answered with at least something so that there's a revision dot next to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just look for the revision dots, like, okay, it was changed. But it was fantastic. It's still one of my top 5 jobs that I've ever
Nice.
had in the entertainment industry, and it was my first job, so I'm spoiled.
Yeah, I'll
I'm
say.
spoiled. Yeah,
Well,
it
there's
took me a while. It took me like 3-4 years to get on footing because I was just getting stuff sporadically in those first years of here's a freelance script before. I don't know, a bunch of them hit at once, or I think I got another like multi-episode job, and I could kind of relax, like okay, because then you think, well, was it a one-off?
Mhm.
Did
Yeah.
my friend Jim Krieg, who's also still out there and kicking and doing great stuff. But was it because he's likable that he got me this staff job and I'm not really good enough to do it?
Yeah.
When you're not working,
that
right?
imposter syndrome that happens to every artist.
Man,
Yeah.
I go wildly back and forth, wildly to I'm a fraud. They're gonna discover I don't know crap. To those morons, they don't recognize my genius. Why are
Yeah.
they changing my words? So it's just it goes like that. Usually, try and keep it in the middle.
Yeah.
You try and keep it in the middle.
Yeah.
And things will go well for you.
That's the safe spot. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of interest in it. I know it's still like in the new, I don't know if it came out today, but the last episode of X-Men 97, in the previous one, they had a glimpse of Spider-Man. And then in this one, you see a glimpse of Peter and Mary Jane. Just like when they're showing the world reacting to something going on, you cut into different superheroes and you see them and they're in the same costumes. Mary Jane's wearing the same yellow sweater with the purple thing underneath, so I think they're teasing it. I think the interest in the how much positivity has come from this X-Men 97 one, I really feel like it'll probably be in the cards, which I'm excited about. So,
well, I know that it's coming up. I mean, fingers crossed that there might be some panels and stuff next year because it'll
nice.
be the 30th anniversary.
Perfect.
I mean, there's always an anniversary.
Yeah.
Because like it's either from the beginning or the end,
Yeah.
or particular episode when it aired. There's when you started on it, but then when it aired is really the
right.
So when the first one aired to when the last one aired, that was 65 episodes later in 5 years. There's a lot of different, anniversaries that you could
for sure.
Stuff.
Yeah. No, that's very cool.
So hopefully he'll be doing some for next year's Comic Cons.
Awesome.
I think that would be one. He usually attracts a pretty big crowd when he does those. I was on the last retrospective for like 25 years, which was neat.
It's got to be like,
and I'm still working. I'm working for him now.
Yeah.
Actually, now he's working on a project for PBS.
Oh, really?
And yeah. I don't know if I can. I don't
That's
know.
fine. No worries.
It's been announced and stuff, but it's neat. It's an entertaining, educating type show, and I think it's going to be really fun.
That's awesome.
So, and then we also did. I mean, if you're the Uber nerd, and I'd say that as I am one also.
Oh, I am too. So,
that we wrote Green Lantern Beware My Power together. So I was kind of. And Jim Krieg was another person that got his break from John on Spider-Man. He was the head of Warner Brothers doing those films for a while. And he's like, I'm going to bring John on, but since he hasn't done one of these, I'm going to need to like kind of guarantee it with you. And I'm like, well, shoot, John's still outright me, but sure, I'll be his beard. We can co-write this together. This will be. It was. We just each took a half. It was very easy.
That's awesome.
Each took a half. We changed halves. I rewrote his. He wrote mine. It fit. It clicked together. And
I've never heard of a collaboration that way, but that makes perfect sense. It really does.
It was easy. It was very easy. So.
That's really cool. Well, like I've noticed you've worked on quite a few projects throughout the years as far as different, cartoons and stuff. Ben 10, which is a big one, in the Green Lantern animated series, and Static Shock, which must have been
another favorite job. Green Lantern animated series.
Yeah,
I wish they should bring that back. That storytelling was amazing.
I love the design. It was very neat.
Not a kid show.
No. It's funny how they sneak those in. Like I had a discussion with someone the other day. I don't know how well you remember the show Captain Power and the Soldiers of Tomorrow. It was like the big show when I was probably like late 80s, early 90s. And that show had like suicide and like people dying in war and like horrible stuff that you're like, I'm so surprised this was like a kid show that was on, for children. And then
Yeah,
like,
they're like, oh, that's boys 6 to 11. Yeah,
yeah,
they're
yeah.
that's
They're going to
sad.
deal with suicide. That's
Yeah.
something they should start thinking about at this age.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you worked on a lot of cool projects. So the Green Lantern one was another standout for you?
Hmm?
The Green
Sorry.
Lantern was another standout for you as far as projects go?
Oh, I love all of those.
Hmm.
I mean, they're these type of things.
Yeah.
Any project that ends up with a movie poster, it's like I really love. But they're kind of so big, and they get their premieres usually at a Comic Con, so it's kind of special, and you do interviews for them, and it's really neat. It's a level I think above if you just do like an episode
Hmm.
for even a really cool show. It's like you've done one episode, but this is like a movie. It's a feature. And so I kind of prize those a little bit more
Hmm.
than my freelance work. But if there's something where, like I was on staff, uh there was only one staff writer for Green Lantern, and it was me. So I got to work really closely with my friend Jim,
Hmm.
and basically, you touch every writer's work. And so if you look at the roster of writers on that show, it is like some heavy hitters, some
Oh
people
yeah.
done some stuff, won a lot of Emmys. Not me, but other people have. And I mean, it's just really good. And so I got to sometimes there's an extra note set of something that, right before the the record or something that Bruce Timm wants
Mhm.
these dialogues changed, or broadcast standing practices says, oh no, that little scene has to be changed because of this. And you get to basically read their work at different stages, read the outline, read the first draft, see how they do the notes that they got, how they executed those notes.
Mhm.
Um, and if you go at it with your eyes open, you can learn like some tricks, which I always appreciated. So it was really cool that Jim, basically got these great writers um for this supposed kid show, and we told this really cool story arc, split it in two, basically 13 and 13. There's kind of two stories. And God, we were setting up for some other really cool stuff, and we didn't get it. We didn't get re-upped because of the Green Lantern feature live action movie. And there was too many unsold Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern dolls, I suppose. And they didn't want the cartoon.
That's got to be one of the most frustrating parts of that process is you can have an entity that's totally devoid of something else. And because that other thing doesn't do well, then you're part of the debris.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, and if you look at it now, it's kind of getting more to where it was, or to where I think it should be.
Hmm.
I think it's a top 10 animated show of all time, but I'm super biased. I'm gonna say that, but I think that thing is we did some amazing stuff, and just the writing and the art was so cool.
Mhm.
Um, I'd encourage people to take a look at it.
Awesome. Well, yeah, I noticed, of course, you've been working on. I want to talk about the DC movies, but before I get to that, I do a lot of different things. Like I'm a graphic designer, I'm an actor. I do some of that sort of stuff, but I'm also a professional wrestler. So I noticed you worked on one of those WWE movies, the cartoons with the where the Scooby Doo gang meet the WWE wrestlers. So I'd be remiss not to ask you about that process and what that was
I
like.
Well, I want to hear about your professional wrestling career. Are you still doing it?
Yeah. I started when I was like 21. I'm 38 now, so I'm still doing it. But I got a show Saturday. here in Truro, where I live in Nova Scotia. I run shows here in my town, and then I go do shows for other people in other towns. But yeah, so still doing it, still going.
So you do an interview, and then perhaps the next day or later that night, on top of the ring ropes, ready to
Mhm.
do a pile driver.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's,
that's
it's
fantastic.
fun. It's fun, man. The body's still holding up. So I'll do it as long as I can. But it's been going well. It's been fun. It's a lot of fun. But those wrestling's an interesting thing, because you either get it or you don't. You always meet someone that's like, well, it's all fake. I don't get that. My answer to that is mostly, well, everything is fake. Like Walter White Bryan Cranston isn't really making meth in an RV. It's like it's
Right.
entertainment. You don't go to a play and yell at the guy who's there that he's not really Julius Caesar. Like that's the nature of fiction.
Yeah,
But
that's kind of weird.
yeah,
No, that was a really fun project.
yeah.
It seemed to be a little snake bit.
Hmm.
Um,
Well, how
uh,
much involvement would WWE have with it? Like, is it just they licensed out the characters to let Scooby-Doo use them? Or is it like, is it some kind of a thing? Well, I guess a lot of the voice actors are wrestlers, so
yeah, no,
I'm
I mean, okay, I don't know about that stuff, but it seemed like they read the script. They gave notes because they are super protective about the image
yes.
and the persona of
Hmm.
their wrestlers. Um, the first part, the original thing had Hulk Hogan in it,
Oh,
and then there was some sort of legal thing, and he was replaced. And I go, oh, who are they going to get of this stature? And Roddy Piper, and I'm like, yes,
yeah, awesome.
that they live.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, one of
in.
my favorites.
I'm like rewriting for Roddy Piper. He's passed away. I'm like, are you shitting me? Like, no.
Oh no.
Now?
Yeah. Oh no.
And then it's like The Undertaker. I'm like, oh, okay. But by that time I was off the show. I didn't even know. I'm
Hmm.
like, we changed again? Um, yeah, so but it was really fun. Getting to see all of the wrestling people do their lines was great. They
Oh,
were
cool. I didn't know if you would
really
get to
well.
watch that, if you would get
Yeah.
to see that part of the process.
Some of them that were in LA came in. The other ones that were like a phone hookup. I just always have to say that Mike Mazanin is a freaking total gamer. People were like, we gotta go. There's like whatever. There's Nitro Friday is happening, and like it's like we got to get this right.
Yeah.
We're not leaving before we get this right. Just make the rest of that happen, go
Yeah.
away. I think it was the interviews. If it was an actual live show, they would have had to go. But he like stayed, and he did not care if they were like, "Can you shriek like a scared little girl?" He was like, like he was into it. He was, and so were most of them. They were really
He's one
cool.
of those guys that never got a lot of didn't get a lot of respect early on when he first became a wrestler, and then after the years pile on and people realized that he was dedicated and he did whatever they needed him to do, whatever role they needed him to be, he was there to
Yeah,
do it, and then it sort of elevated him to a level that, like, from what I've seen as an outsider, I mean, I'm not involved with the WWE, unfortunately. It would have been nice to be, but hey.
yeah.
But from what I understand, and from any people that I meet that are industry people that are, I meet them at a show somewhere because I don't work for the WWE anymore. They always speak very highly of him. Say he's a very top-notch guy. So that's really cool to hear.
I remember who's the Irish
Oh,
guy.
Sheamus.
Sheamus was also like his line delivery just cracked me up. He has a gift for it. I wouldn't. I wonder why he's not in. Maybe he is as like a heavy or something, but I just don't.
He was like a bad, like, people shift from good guy to bad guy to good guy. I think he's back. He was off for an injury for a while, but he's back now. But
No, but I mean, I
people.
think he should be in movies or
Oh,
TV shows.
the
Like I
only
think
thing,
he's like that good.
the only thing I know he was in for a fact was the the Michael Bay Ninja Turtles movie. He was Rocksteady, I think.
Nice.
Yeah. But he was, and I mean, live action as in he was himself for 10 minutes before they made him a CGI rhino. But yeah. Well, people wonder about that. Like, they don't wonder, but it makes sense why a lot of these wrestlers, like The Rock or John Cena or all these other guys, go on to have pretty big acting careers, because like acting's a big part of wrestling. Like,
Yeah.
well, a lot of it, like it's matches, but the bulk of it, especially on television, is interviews or like yelling at other wrestlers or vignettes or those sort of things. And that's all acting. Like that's part of like, I like acting. I do stage stuff and I do film stuff when I can get it, but it's like, it's all part of it. It's that performance part of it. Right.
Got to be good on the mic.
Yeah.
Right?
You gotta work the stick, as they
And
say.
the other person that and this was before her movie came out, but Paige, I was like,
Oh yeah.
it's like really interesting. What's her deal? English? I don't get this, And then that whole movie came out about her family.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this answers a lot of questions.
I wrestled on the show with her mom one time. No, I didn't wrestle on it. I was at a show with her mom one time. Her mom was wrestling on the show. And she was very, very cool lady, very tough lady for sure, but very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, no, I was just curious about that because that's a weird intersection of different parts of my life, nerdy stuff and wrestling, which is very cool. But yeah, getting to the DC work, like that must be very interesting, adapting like these established books, that have this big following and trying to take that in a different direction. And I find it very, because I've talked to Mike Carlin on the show before, who was like the director over there for a while, the animation department, I think, wasn't he?
He was like the DC producer of these things.
Yes.
Like, so he was the DC rep and would make sure that we weren't like giving he's just a vault of information.
Oh yeah. Well,
all the characters and their powers and this and that. So if you put something in and it was like kind of wrong for the character, he would go, "This is the reason." Like he'd keep you straight on that.
Oh, that's cool.
And other stuff. He also has great ideas. He was an editor for years and years on. Like The Death of Superman.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah.
But the idea of that, like, because these things are probably, and I told him this when I talked to him, they're probably the most faithful adaptations of any comic work I've ever seen. Like from the ones, although I haven't seen every single one, but I've seen most of them. They're fantastic. They're really good. And if they and sometimes if they deviate too far, there's a lot of backlash from the fans because like the only example I can think of is that the Killing Joke one where they had Batman have a relationship with Batgirl and everyone really was upset by that. But it's like who for the story they're trying to tell in this one entity, it's got to be a weird tightrope, I guess, to walk. You
can't think of one other example where people got mad because
I don't remember a backlash from the Hush one. What was the backlash? Maybe I missed this. So it was off the internet that day.
Yeah, no, it was.
Well, there you go. This explains it. So what happened?
I put in basically I killed off Tom Elliott. Tom Elliott wasn't my Hush, it was the Riddler. So I just made it be in the book, it is the Riddler and this Thomas Elliott doctor who dressed up and became Hush. And I don't know who thought up the idea. I think I pitched it and I was like, it's more because you can only have so many characters. You can only have so many like famous characters, is your stunt characters that they cast. And I was like, well, maybe it could be he could just be one, and the whole brain tumor thing and the Lazarus pit, it just made sense. And it's kind of got rid of a bunch of production problems at the same time. So they were like, go for it, right?
Nice.
But basically you're changing the ending. Now, some people think, yeah, it worked. Other people are like, you've ruined my childhood. But
you get a lot of that. I hate that argument. I hate that so much because if you don't like it, don't watch it. Go read the book. The book's still there.
Yeah.
Read that. But the book, I think it actually makes more sense to me to do it the way you did it because like to inject I always hate when they inject a character that never existed before and said this character was this guy's childhood friend that was never referenced in 70 years of comics, but now they loved you. They were such good friends as kids. It's such a surprise and a betrayal that he would turn villain against me. And it's like, it's not earned. Like, at least the Riddler's been around long enough, and it's a real surprise when you think it's a new big villain, but it's an old villain doing a new thing. Like, I don't know, that's more interesting to me than just creating Tommy Elliott, you know?
You know what? Look, I love that book
Yeah.
because it goes through the rogues gallery, and of course there's Jim Lee's
The
art,
art's beautiful. Yeah.
and but any one of them, the shortest one. Well, the shortest one actually is The Killing Joke. The reason why they had to do that is because The Killing Joke is only 50 pages.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
50 comic pages are not 50 minutes even. It
No.
was probably 45. They needed it to be 72 minutes. They
Mhm.
needed an entire other plot line. It is so hard to expand from the middle. You
Yes.
need to expand in big chunks, from
Yep.
the sides. You can't be like, let's just increase every scene by like a minute, have him talk a little bit more. Ugh, it would kill the
Yeah.
project, right? So that's why they did that. But I think possibly the second shortest one is the Teen Titans, which is 3 issues and a double issue. So let's say it's 5 issues. It's still too big for 72 to 80 minutes.
Mhm.
It's too big. We had to get rid of the entire origin of Deathstroke to make it fit. And
Yeah.
even then, we had to do some stuff. So it's not going to be exactly right, but there's no winning. Either you do it. I mean, what J.J. Abrams does, like The Watchmen, and it is shot for shot in a lot of places.
Oh, the Zack Snyder one. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Zack Snyder.
The movie. Yeah. It's all right. Yeah.
Yeah. It is shot for shot. And
Yep.
people were like, oh, I knew everything that was coming.
Yeah.
And then the other people were like, he actually made more sense about why there's a tentacled monster there, that it was a whole like fake thing rather than someone, right?
Well, and that one they just made it that.
It make more sense.
Yeah.
And people were like, no, you changed it. And the other people were like, we were bored because we had seen everything. So
Yeah.
you just have to, I think you have to do it well and still have a reverence for the thing. I got in trouble because with Injustice. Injustice is this many books. It's like a foot and a half worth of books. And Warner Home Video, they go, why didn't you make it a series? Well, because the series, HBO or HBO Max wasn't doing it. They didn't want it. Warner Home Video wanted it, and they wanted 1 movie. And I pitched 3 movies, and they were like, no, that's too many in Just Die. in
Just Die.
Just Die. And I was like, no, it's really not. It could be great. And they're not, they don't want to hear that from me. They're like, we want 1 and freaking do it. And so I wanted to do that. But I'm like, oh, by the way, like you need way more diversity in here. The characters are much too white, so make main characters, use different ones. We want Cyborg to have a major part. We want Mr. Terrific. I'm like, all right, I got to get rid of the Flash. If we're going to do that. That cost me.
Yeah.
That cost me.
That's so interesting. And stuff people don't talk about a lot is that the transactional nature of that, when they're like, okay, we can use this guy, we can't use that guy, but if you need to use that guy, and you're just like, oh yeah, I guess because narratively you need to make a story that bounces, and gets the beats and gets to where it needs to get to, but you also need to appease these things that are thrown at you as well. So it's got to be quite the
that are odd, that aren't about the story at all.
Yeah.
But then there's the massive cutting down problem. I didn't like the thing that hurt the most, I think, was lose the Hawkeye, Green Arrow, Black Canary romance. To me, hurt a lot worse than, but who are you going to get rid of? You're going to get rid of Harley?
Yeah.
The Harley Green Arrow interface? Like, we need more of that.
Yeah.
In our 80-minute movie.
Yeah.
Right? We can't cut that down to nothing because that was freaking great. But yeah, there's so much stuff. And it would have been great to do it all. It would be I hope someone does do the invincible sized, supersized 44, 52-minute animated episodes. 10 or 12 episodes would be great for Injustice. For the first book. You could do the first book and you could do 10 44-minute episodes of that. And you'd still have to cut stuff. Someone would still go, no.
I feel like the Injustice story is very interesting in for a lot of reasons. I read a quote from Grant Morrison where he was kind of bagging on it just because he doesn't believe that there's his version of Superman would never turn to the path that the Injustice Superman does, which I can see. But the idea that like you're basically making a whole series about fascism, which in using superheroes to explore it in a fun way is much like Andor or any of those sort of shows that are in the public eye right now. And it's like it's an issue that's becoming a bigger one in our modern world lately that people are asking questions about. So like the idea that you can kind of explore it and show, even if it's through a colorful comic book or movie adaptation version of the narrative, the horrors of that, it's good.
Well, and you've got it's great for that.
Yeah,
I mean, this is from the video game.
Yeah.
Like you can't. We writers can't claim it because it started over there, so that writer can kind of claim it. But we have a character that's always been a Boy Scout, true blue, always does the right thing, even when it hurts, and he's pushed into a snapping point, and so he becomes a fascist dictator. And every step of the way, he's like, I got to be careful. I don't do this. And it pushes him perfectly toward it. It's really earned. Which I love.
And that's because you get write a stack of books that explain it. It kind of reminds me, and I use it as a quote, as an example, is like Breaking Bad. You watch the show and you watch this character and you're like, you kind of relate, you understand every decision he made leading up to where his life gets to, and you don't like the guy he is at the end of it, and you're like, well, this guy's a monster, and you're like, but you can see why. You can understand and relate to every reason that brought him there. You just don't like the end result, but that's what happens. That's life. We all have things where you're like, well, I can see, we got to this point. How did I get here? And you literally can watch it all and then understand.
Usually in animation, there's like the easy or the hard way. And the easy way is like, he got sprayed by an alien plant. There were spores. Right, and it turned him evil for a second. You just got like we jam something in, and he's back. He's fine.
The spores
and the easy way. Spock with spores. Look out! I'm going to kill you, Jim. But that's where you get these great moments, and that one they did it the hard way. They really did it the hard way. When he's just like put a hole through Green Arrow's head with his vision. I mean, but his dad had just died from a ricochet. You can see it. You can see, but it's like at that point, a lot of people get off the bus. Right?
Well, leading up to it, what the Joker did to him and all that stuff. It all you can understand if you're like, you keep letting these people free to do it again, then at what point are you responsible for allowing that to happen?
Everybody has thought that. It's like, Batman, you're being stupid.
Snap his neck and move on. And then people are like, well, I'd still be a murderer. And it's like, all right, well, then you make a sacrifice, but that's probably a good one. It's
a good everybody one. Else feel guilty about it. Go,
you can sit in your massive mansion and regret,
Rude. It's what you do best.
It's what you do.
Don't do it again. But with the Joker, everybody's willing to give you a pass. I mean, he just gets out to kill more. I wanted to do it right down the middle. So ideally 50% of the people would agree with Batman and 50% would agree with Superman. you know?
Civil War.
Yeah.
Which is the way to do it. I mean that makes it more interesting on all sides for sure.
Well, by the time you read some of it, by the end, it's like he seems to be doing the same thing and not learning the lesson.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but at the end, you're like, you know what, Superman, you are definitely wrong. But I wanted that movie to end
Mm.
with 50% of people on each side
Yep.
going, well, who was right?
Yeah. Well, that's what makes you quit. Like that's good fiction because that's what makes you yourself think about it. And why do I stay on this side and why do I feel that way? And is it the right way to feel? So that's awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool. Well, what's next? What's coming up for you?
Let's see. Um,
I know you have a series of children's books, which is really cool as well. I mean, that's a whole other conversation, I guess. But
yeah,
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 that's pretty
yeah.
neat.
Um, you know what? I'm doing some comic work.
Oh, cool.
So that's kind of neat. As I said, I'm working for John
Mhm.
on this PBS show. I'm also, I think I can say because there's a picture out. I'm out on a Lego show.
Oh, cool.
I won't mention the show right now. There is a live action thing that we shot in Hungary that's supposed to come out later this year called, oh yeah, the title's not mine. It's called Dicks,
Mhm.
and it's about two bumbling private detectives.
Wasn't there a graphic novel that was based on? Or am I thinking of
Uh,
something else?
no, not this. But although
Okay.
now Larry David has something called Dicks the Musical, and I think it's about private eyes and
Oh
like
no, I saw it. It's Larry Charles, the guy that did
oh, La-
the
oh
guy that
Larry
did
Charles.
yeah.
Cheers.
Yeah, he worked on he did all like the Borat movies and stuff.
Hmm.
It's not at all about that. It's nothing to do with detectives at all. It's
Oh, okay.
yeah,
They look like they were in trench coats and stuff. So I
it's
thought,
more like an homage to musicals. And
oh,
it's really farcical and out there and it's a very strange movie. But it's it's interesting if you like his sort of style, but it's very surrealist and kind of satire. Like
huh.
extreme satire, but nothing to do with detectives or anything. It's the main characters are gay, like in real life, and then there's sort of a running thing about that. So dicks is sort of it's about actual dicks, not not detectives.
Oh,
Yeah.
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
there you go. You're free.
You know what? Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I
there's
release you.
another one. Yeah, I just think that there's like I'm gonna have this cute little Lego show and
And
like
then
a
dicks.
PBS like it's a preschool show, and then
Yeah.
right after that is Dicks. And I'm
It'd
just
be an
like,
interesting
ooh,
IMDb profile.
yeah. Well, that is a. I gotta get some more credits on past that one on top. But I think it's really it's kind of a cool idea. Um, and I we'll see. I mean, so that's coming out, and I'm working with another person on an animated feature. Sorry, I can't be specific
No,
with
that's
it.
okay. No, I don't want to get you in trouble. I know the corporate world is
Oh, you know what?
yeah.
I know something, and okay. I one of the comic book stories that I'm working on is going to be in a graphic novel of Stingray, the
Oh.
60s puppet show,
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
puppet show. Um,
Interesting.
so so I think that has oh God, I hope it's been announced. But it should be coming out at the end of this year. It's a really cool graphic novel story.
That's
And
hilarious. Wow, what an odd property to grab. And
60th
oh, there you
anniversary
go.
of
So
it.
is Fireball XL5 and Thunderbirds on Far Behind? As they were very similar shows, weren't they?
Well, you know what? I think that I know Jamie Anderson, it's Jerry's son, and there is a thing called the Anderverse, and I know that he is working on, bringing some stuff back. So I don't know where or
That is funny.
what type of things, but hey, man, like if I could do something Space 1999 or UFO,
Hmm.
I'm in.
Perfect.
I'm like I was obsessed with UFO when I was a young lad,
Yeah.
just because all the women were hot in their purple wigs
Oh yeah.
and their mini skirts. I'm like, I want to work here. Like I want to work in the future. Right? I mean, it's fantastic, and they're defending the world from aliens. This show's got it going on, you know.
That's awesome.
And Space 1999, the first season is like sci-fi horror,
Hmm.
which just fascinated me at the
Is
time.
it? I'll have to go back and rewatch that. That sounds
There
great.
was nothing on TV that was sci-fi horror. And then I guess like the Americans get involved when it gets a little more popular, and they're like, no, we want it to be more like, like Star Wars or Logan's Run, where
Oh, bah.
and then it became like kind of less, but it scared the hell out of me. And yeah, so who knows? I'm glad I got to work a little bit on this Anderverse thing on Stingray.
That's cool. I'll look forward
Uh,
to checking that out.
yeah. So and then there's some other things that are coming out that should be, I think, pretty neat. To the nerd in me, they please me.
Oh, beautiful.
Uh,
Well, that's who you got to please. That's why you do it.
um,
Make the nerd in you happy.
yeah. Oh, well, there is this other thing. It's called Batman Azteca.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It reimagines Batman in the world of the Aztecs.
Really? That sounds cool.
Yep, it's a big swing.
Yeah. Well,
We'll see.
is this an animated thing or like a?
Animated.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Interesting.
Yeah.
Very cool. Oh, hey, there's we get lots of parallel universe Batmans. What's wrong with this one? Sounds good to
This one,
me.
this is a big swing. I
Cool.
mean, because it's like reimagining the origin of Batman, but in 1521,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Tenochtitlan, the
Mm-hmm.
height of the Aztec Empire, like as the Cortez and the Europeans have come over,
Oh, wow, that's cool. So like they're
and
the bad guys. Awesome.
they're the bad guys. Yeah.
I really actually am looking forward to seeing what he looks like. That would be very cool.
Well,
So,
there's stuff on the internet.
oh, is it okay? I'll check
Yeah,
that
you
out.
can check it out.
All
Look
right.
at some of the character designs for Batman Azteca.
Oh
And
shit, that is cool.
and
Man, that's awesome.
yeah,
Oh man, the
so
Joker looks so cool too. Oh man, this is wonderful. I'm totally down for this. What
we'll see. I think I'm hoping that there's going to be a trailer at some point, or at least some more photos put out.
is this a flat movie or is this a series?
It's a movie.
Cool. Oh man, I'll be watching that for sure.
Um, yeah, I think you and everybody. We'll see. I bet you it's going to be one of those things that 50% of the people. The director on it is fantastic. So I worked with him.
Mhm.
His name is Juan Mazaleon. He directed a lot of episodes of Rick and Morty and
Oh,
Harley Quinn.
I'm a huge Rick
Some
and
of my
Morty fan.
favorites. Yeah, he's a fantastic guy, and it's mostly him. Obviously, he is has the heritage for it, but I helped. Um, and yeah, I think he's done a fantastic job on it. I hope it gets out there. Um, but I can just hear already. It's like half the crowd will be like, Warner's is selling out, like making Batman be
It's just
diverse, and
Hispanic,
then
yeah.
the other half will be like, you didn't get the history right
Yeah,
on
yeah,
any of
yeah,
the diversity,
yeah.
right? But actually, we took some severe pains to maybe get that right.
Well,
So
it looks very unique and very interesting. It sounds super
we'll
cool. That's why,
we'll
like, I don't get people. I often complain about nerddom in the way that I'm like, you'll never make everyone happy no matter what you do. And the biggest example I ever use is like Star Wars. They bring back The Force Awakens. And people are like, this is too much like the other stuff. We don't like it. And then they're like, okay, well, here's the Last Jedi. And they're like, this is too different. It's not like the other stuff. We don't like it. And then they're like, okay, well, here's the third one where we try to like find some weird middle ground and make a garbled mess that doesn't make any sense. And they're like, we don't like this. It's like, all right, well, there's no making you happy. It's just, you know.
yeah,
So all I can do is put it out there and hope it does enough people connect with it. I think this looks interesting, unique enough. I think
well,
that's super
that's the
cool.
whole thing. Is it going to be too unique? I mean,
Ah,
with all the sci-fi and even the Marvel stuff, everything was existing properties,
hmm.
right? For like, let's make more Star Wars. Let's make more
Yeah.
right? And we're almost getting to a point where I've let a couple go by. I'm like, that one doesn't seem to be like I
Hmm.
got to see that right away. I'll catch it later. When before, I'm sure when you were growing up, it was like anything that's coming out, I don't care. I
Yeah.
gotta
Oh yeah.
see
Yeah.
it. I
Yep.
gotta see it. I might
Yep.
complain about it,
Yep.
but I gotta see it because there's only one thing coming out every 2 or 3 years on
Oh
this
yeah.
topic, right?
I was way more forgiving of those movies as a kid. Like the Daredevil movie with Ben Affleck, I was like, this movie's all right, And it's like
I like that
because
one.
it was
That
all
has
right, but
the
as a
best. That is the best character arc from murdering vigilante
yeah,
into a hero.
yeah,
I think that's way underrated. That
yeah,
movie. I think
I
it's
agree.
way underrated.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
but uh, but yeah. So when new stuff comes out, and then people don't go and see it. Like I remember Blade Runner coming out, and it bombed.
Mhm.
And now it's like the most, people are like, no, we want more Blade Runner stuff. It's like you didn't when it came out.
Yeah.
Sweet what tomorrow, not tomorrow never dies. The Tom Cruise all you need
Oh,
is kill is
yeah.
what I'm looking by.
Edge of Tomorrow.
The Edge of Tomorrow. That is one of the best sci-fi movies in the last 25 years. I'd put
Yep.
it in the top 5 for sure.
Hmm.
It's totally original. It's so cool.
Yeah.
And it didn't do very well. And
Mhm.
people were shitting on it. And I'm like, you guys are crazy. You got to support stuff. If you want new and different stuff, well, then
Support
support
it. Yeah.
even when people take a big swing, then don't just like dismiss it out of hand. You got to go like check it out.
I'm a big John Carpenter fan, and his whole career is basically people not getting it until it's too late.
Right.
The Thing is probably the best horror movie ever made, and it tanked at the box office. Everybody loves it now, and they're like, make sequels, make prequels. It's like, where were you back? When it was out, we could have got it back then.
Yeah, it was it
So
was scary. I mean, obviously, I don't even know if people know that it's kind of a remake,
oh yeah, The Thing from Another
right?
World, yeah, the
A
black and
remake of
white.
the Blob,
The
basically.
Well, there was a black and white movie called The Thing from Another World, which was the
That
sort of
also.
sequel. But that
Yeah.
was even from a short story called Who Goes There, which is so
Oh boy,
it's old
you
stuff.
really know some stuff. Okay.
Yeah, nerd, nerd when you like something, you like it.
Oof.
But like They Live, all that stuff, they didn't do super well. I think he said in an interview his most profitable movie was Vampires, which which
James
is
Woods,
yeah,
loved it.
yeah,
I
it's
read the
great.
book too. The
I
book was
I
cool
rewatched it
too.
not too long ago. It's a fun movie. The bad
Yeah.
guy is Terry Silver from Karate Kid. Like it's fun. It's
I yeah.
yeah.
I'd love to see like a remake of Jesus, no, totally forgetting it.
Escape from New
I
York.
but oh no, not I mean, yeah, that's too easy.
Yeah.
Actually.
Big Trouble in Little China. I mean, there's a lot of cool
Um
stuff that he did then.
oh man. I'm totally forgetting it. It's a Kyle MacLachlan movie and an alien. He's an
Oh,
alien.
The Hidden. The Hidden.
The Hidden.
I just watched
Uh,
that for the first time like a few months ago, and I was like, how have I never watched this movie before? It is awesome.
there are so many minor and low budgety 70s and 80s horror and sci-fi movies that they were cheesy at the time. Damnation Alley,
Mm.
Life Force or
No,
something.
yeah, the Toby
But
Hooper
I
one. Yeah.
bet you could do like a great reimagining of the idea.
Hmm.
And, you don't have to just churn out ones that we've heard of.
Yeah, well, actually, that's another one because I have friends that I'm a big movie guy too. I have friends over and watch movies, and I'll lock on to some movie I read about that everyone says is one you never saw and it's fantastic. And that
Right.
was one of them was The Hidden. But another one was and I got it from watching Trailers from Hell. Do you ever watch that? It's
No.
Joe Dante and Josh Olson. Who Josh Olson wrote one of the DC animated movies. I think he did the Batman Ninja one.
Oh,
But
okay.
he wrote the History of Violence, the script for that movie.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I met him on the picket line of not this strike, but the
oh,
previous.
nice, right on, yeah.
Yeah.
So they have him and Joe Dante, who I'm a big fan of as well, have a podcast where they just have people on. It's called The Movies That Made Me, and they just talk about the movies that influence them, or somebody will pick their top 10 romance movies or their top 10 needle drops in movies, weird stuff like that. But Joe Dante has a website called Trailers from Hell where they have industry people, writers, directors, cinematographers talking over trailers for movies they love, and just it's a way to let people know about the movies, that they may not never have heard of. And if you have any like Plex or Roku, they have like those free channels, and there's a channel that's just those on a loop. So you can like if you throw it on, you can learn about a bunch of movies. And but one of them was them talking about John Landis's Innocent Blood. And it's, if you'd ever seen it, it's from the early 90s, I think, or late 80s. It's very much in line with sort of that horror comedy that sort of American Werewolf in London was. But it's about a female vampire played by the girl from the La Femme Nikita movie, the original Luc Besson one, who is like hundreds of years old and only kills bad people to survive. So she'll kill mobsters, make it look like mob violence, and get away. But when she tries to kill this mob boss played by Robert Loggia, and doesn't quite get to finish the job because something happens, he becomes a vampire and starts turning his mob lieutenants into vampires. Don Rickles is one of them. He's like his mob lawyer that becomes a vampire. And
well, I'm writing this down.
Oh man! And then she has to team up with a local Italian cop. I think it was Anthony LaPaglia when he's really young, and they have to go stop these vampire mobsters from making this go across. But like the idea of like this whole concept, I'm like, this could be a Netflix show. Like you could easily make a 10-episode Netflix show for season 1 of just this movie.
Fan-freaking-tastic.
It's one of the best movies I'd never heard of, but then watched and was like, and I had a group of people over. We laughed, we cheered, we had a blast watching it. It's fantastic.
Man.
Yeah, check it out.
Well, I unfortunately have to go.
Yeah, no, this is great. I had a great
road.
We went way longer than I would have expected. So
I think it needs to be cut down and edited, buddy.
No way, man. This is going flat out like this.
You're like verite. Ooh,
yeah,
it's like life.
It's like Fellini in 8.5.
And that's what's bad. That's why a screenwriter will take all the boring parts of life out, so you get Star Wars. Yeah,
good point. But I dig these type of conversations, and obviously when I connect with someone like this, it makes for such a fun conversation. So, and honestly, the people that listen, they dig it. They like this sort of stuff. So I think they'll dig it. Cool. Well, thanks, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Ernie. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. And like anybody that gets this far, I mean, I'm still on X at Ernie Altbacker or at EJ Altbacker, and that's on everything.
Awesome.
Facebook and Instagram also.
Perfect. And if you ever find yourself in the East Coast, let me know and I'll get you on a fishing boat.
All right, watch out.
I'll do it. I'll find a way.
All
right.
All right. Have a
Thanks,
good
Ernie.
day.
You too, buddy.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
There it is, my discussion with Ernie Altbacker. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed doing it. As I said before, man, I laughed a lot. I had a blast. My wife was in the other room working, and she was like, you were laughing the whole time. Must have been a good interview. I said, yeah. I said, it really was. It was probably definitely up there. One of my favorite just natural conversations to have with someone, because Ernie was easy to get along with and a great conversation. So I hope to have him back on someday. But in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed it. It was super fun to do. Next episode comes out in 1 week's time. That's with Keith Gerchow, who is a comic artist and does some really cool work as well. And we'll get into that as well. But stay tuned to social media for some more updates about other episodes and other things going on. As you notice, I started sharing reels from the episodes to help promote them, which is always kind of fun, cutting those and coming up with some different things I can do with those. And those will be rolling out as well. Eventually trying to get the show on YouTube, be able to sort of build your channel before you can get there. So, but as in all the other ones you find, please sure to like and subscribe and pass it along. Let the world know how much you love this show, and maybe the world will show me a little more love too. So thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Andre. It's been an absolute blast, and I will see you, and by see I mean talk with you, in 1 week's time. The Graphic Histories Podcast is a proud partner of the United Federation of Podcasts.